Hey, and welcome to the Life in a Bookshelf podcast with Beck Mills. Here you will find convos about well-being, about home, and a bunch of book love as well. We chat all things from health hacks to simplifying our home, to decluttering, to mini book reviews for you as well. Let's take this 30-something life head on and start creating a really positive impact in our own lives, in our families, and out into our wider communities. So glad that you're here. Let's jump on in. All right. Today we are wrapping up our new mini series, which is like New Year with a twist. Yeah, it's already February, but we don't care. Today we are talking big goals and big girl panties. Yep. So what's a girl to do? I mean, she's got a big goal. So what big goal have you got on your mind right now? And you know what? It does, like, big is relative, right? What's a goal that you have right now? I'd love to hear it. And today we're going to talk about a few different, I guess, it might be some things that you've heard before about goal setting, but there might be a couple of surprises in here. So keep listening. And if you're someone who has been reluctant to set goals, whatever time of year it is, if you've been reluctant to set a goal, or like write down a goal or share a goal with somebody, this episode is especially for you. But even if you are quite used to setting goals, maybe there's been some goals that you've been going after for a long time, you're not sure, like year after year or month after month, you're kind of going after it, but it's not happening. This is also for you. And I thought this would be a really nice way to wrap up our little mini series. Last episode, we briefly touched on this when we talked about ins and outs for the year. And if you haven't had a listen, go back and have a listen. So first thing I want to know from you is, do you set goals? And this covers a lot of different ways you could do it. You could do it in your head. You could write it down. You could tell a friend or a trusted person in your life. You could write it down every day and journal about it. You could put it out there on the interwebs, on social media, whatever. You could shout it from the rooftops to some random strangers down the street. I don't know, whatever's your thing. But all of it is goal setting, right? There is definitely some research out there. Definitely some research. There's a lot of research, and I'm just double checking the percentage now. Did you know that research shows that 42%, you are 42% more likely to achieve a goal literally just by writing it down. And that goes up the more you write it down. Isn't that cool? So almost, 42% more likely to achieve a goal just by writing it down. And if you continue to write it down, that percentage goes up. Now, in saying that, the research also shows, obviously people that were in these research studies, that 3% only, 3% of people only write down their goals that they want to go after, that they want to achieve. 3%. One more stat for you, because I promised you I'd look up some cool stats that I wasn't sure of last episode, is that 43%, obviously these are people that are taking part in surveys, so take it with a grain of salt, but 43% of people quit going after a goal by the end of January. That's huge. That's almost half of us. There's this thing that they call it the National Quitters Day now. It's crazy. I think it's like January 11th or 19th or something. And just those stats always blow me away. Like, I've heard them that many times, but something so simple as writing down, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't need to be a fancy, new, clean, fresh journal or a specific app or whatever. Literally be like a post-it note or just on a notepad, or, if you like journaling, you can do it in a journal. But literally just writing it down. 42% more likely to achieve that. but only 3% of us do it. So if you have been struggling with goal setting, struggling with going after a goal and achieving it, this is a really, really, really cool and really simple way. Okay, maybe not cool, it's quite boring to be honest, but a lot of these things in life that are quite simple that help with a lot of things are actually not that sexy and are quite boring. So it's literally so simple, writing it down. But what I want to know is, do you set goals? Set goals, whether you're writing them down or not. And the reason I ask is because I used to be very much someone that didn't set goals, definitely didn't write them down. And there was a big reason for that, which I discovered over the years. And that is because I had a massive fear of failure. I feared setting a goal, even like in my own head, for fear that I wouldn't achieve it. That again, I would not achieve this goal. That again, I'd come up short of it. I'd love to hear from you. If you're feeling this right now, or have been feeling this, or in the past maybe you felt this, that you didn't want to set a goal because you were afraid that you wouldn't reach it. Oh, it feels so heavy to say that, but it actually kind of feels good to get off the chest. Because what I want to talk about today is not only is it simple, the act of writing down your goals, even if they seem big, audacious, scary, bold, crazy, and you're full of uncertainty about it, the simple fact is that it works. Writing down our goals, it works. It changes our brain every time we see it, every time we write it down. Isn't that cool? And it teaches our brain. Another cool thing is it teaches our brain to look for opportunities, not just to look for them, but to be open to seeing and experiencing these things that are going to lead us towards our goals. It activates a part of our brain that literally is on the lookout for reasons why we can achieve that goal and how we can achieve that goal and what we can do differently or what we can try. So cool. So cool that this simple activity of writing down our goals can work. And the fact of the matter is, these simple things, often they're as easy not to do as they are to do. And I spoke about that in one of the first episodes of this mini series, where I was talking to you about, I read The Slight Edge in last year, and about creating new habits and things. But the fact of it is, it's so easy not to write down a goal that takes 10 seconds, maybe. And it's as easy not to do as it is to do, which is why often we forget about doing it. I know I forget a lot, but then I remind myself because I've done this for a long time. You could set reminders as well. That's another thing. But I forget, life happens. Maybe something else takes our attention away. Maybe we get a new goal, whatever it is. And it's so simple not to do. And this is where I think it trips many of us up. So, first things first, write down your goals. If you've got some, I would love to hear it. And also, when we're afraid of not achieving said goals, it can be really hard to write that down and see it in front of you or speak it out loud, tell someone about it. It can be really hard when we're very tied to it emotionally and we don't want to miss achieving that again. And I had this big fear of that failure for a long time. And, it's probably a few years ago now. And I must have read something, or listened to something, obviously, at the time. And I started realizing that by setting those goals and by writing them down, how much closer I got each time to actually achieving that goal. Or how much closer I got to creating that habit, that healthy habit, or whatever it is. Like, I just kept getting after it. And I realized how much closer I was getting to achieving it, rather than focusing on like, oh shit, here we go again. Like, I'm not going to get to that goal. I'm not going to do it before the middle of the year, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to do it before the end of the year. I'm not going to do it before the end of January, whatever it is. And realizing, whoa, like, look how much I have done and look how much I've learned. Look how much closer I am to achieving that goal. And that takes a big, like, awareness on your behalf to catch yourself when you're thinking, oh, it's not going to happen. Life's too busy, work's too crazy, like the kids' schedule's out of control, like I'm never going to get to this thing. But catching that, starting to catch that when you start having those thoughts and think, what could I do today? What could I do this week that would get me closer? That's a big, big turnaround if you can catch yourself in those thoughts. So I hope that's helpful. What the next thing I want to say is, what could be possible for you if you decided to go all in on that goal? And this might sound a little bit opposite to what I talked about the other day, which was about creating those habits and starting off small, baby steps. But going all in on your goal doesn't mean not taking baby steps. Doesn't mean going all in and doing everything at once. You're deciding that you're going all in on that goal. And that commitment to yourself is huge and will go a really, really, really long way. And you don't have to tell people. You don't have to post it online. Literally, you can write it down in a book that no one sees or on a scrap of paper and chuck it in the bin, whatever, every day. But it's the act of deciding that that is what you want, making a commitment to yourself, writing down your goals or putting them where you can see them. That is the most powerful thing. And going, yeah, I'm going to go after it. And even if I don't reach that, look how much closer I'm going to be to achieving that. I'm going to be so much closer to achieving that. So, next thing I want to share with you is a quote that I heard quite recently, and I absolutely adore it. And I think the biggest hurdle, I mean, if you've got that fear of failure, that's a big hurdle, like fear of not reaching a goal and therefore not setting goals. That's a big hurdle, and a good thing to work on first. The next is actually beginning that journey once you've decided that it's for you, this goal, and you're committed and you're invested. The next thing is actually starting and beginning on that journey. That's a big road hump, a big, what do you call it? Speed hump? I don't know. Is a big block in the road for many, many of us. And I think is one of the hardest things about going after a goal is that beginning stage, that uncertainty, maybe not knowing where to begin, not knowing how much to do of a certain thing to start with, fearing maybe judgment and what other people think about what you're doing, especially, if there's some changes involved, maybe other people's expectations. All of these things can really keep us stuck if we keep focusing on those things when we're trying to get started. And this quote is by Sally McRae, and she says, there isn't a right or wrong way to begin. It matters that you begin. Now, I heard her say this, but I don't know if she's the original author, so just putting that out there. And it just really hit home for me. There isn't a right or wrong way to begin. It matters that you begin. That's so powerful. I love that. I found that in January and I just put it up where I can see it. And that's because for all of us, it's going to look completely different. Our goals are going to be different. How we go about them is going to be different. What we want to feel when we achieve them. All these things are going to be unique and individual to us. And there's not a right or wrong way to begin. And I think if you're anything like me, you can let me know if you like. The overanalyzing and the overthinking and wanting to do things the right way, the proper way. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it proper, that kind of thing. researching, reading, trying to find the right way to do something, and then realizing it's been 3 months and you haven't actually made a start on. Sure, you've done some research, but you haven't actually made a start and put in the action steps to get making your way towards achieving that goal. So there isn't a right or wrong way to begin. It matters that you begin. So, so, so powerful. And I really hope, if you don't take anything else away from this mini series or this episode today, then that you'll take that with you, and really let that settle within you. So, have you written down your goals yet? Let me know. The next thing I hear, and over the years, I've worked in lots and lots and lots of different areas, careers, settings, but goal setting has always been a big part of what I do and how I help people, whichever role that I've been in. So it's really, looking back, it's really cool. Over lots of different disciplines, workplaces, working with different people, goal setting's there. And something that always comes up is it important to tell people about my goal? And I say to you, if you're thinking the same thing, is that it's up to you. Honestly, it is up to you. Yes, there is research out there that says that accountability, which could mean telling one other person, it could mean telling a group of people, it could mean telling strangers on the internet or down at the shop, that accountability can increase your chance of achieving your goal for sure. Because often we feel like we don't want to let others down. Right? I think that's what it comes down to. A lot of us don't want to let others down. So by sharing that goal, being accountable, it can help us show up maybe when we're not feeling so motivated. And for sure, I found that absolutely is helpful. But when someone says, do I have to tell someone my goal? I say, no, you don't have to do anything. You get to do this your way. And I think it's always important that you be mindful of who you share your goal with. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. Absolutely, you can do what you like. But I find being mindful of who I share those goals with is helpful to the overall outcome. You might like to just write it in your journal and keep it to yourself. And that is by all means very, very powerful. 42% more likely to achieve that goal just by writing it down. And some of you might thrive off the energy of other people in groups and having that accountability. And that is fantastic as well. So don't feel like you have to do it one way or the other, or if you have to tell people or not tell people. And you might find that telling one person's helpful, someone that you trust, but be mindful of who you want to share that with. And the reason I say be mindful is because everybody's going to have their own opinion. Your family's going to have an opinion. Your friends are going to have an opinion. Your spouse or your partner's going to have an opinion. Your kids will have an opinion, no doubt. I say be mindful of who you share it with, especially in those really early days, because you will have an influx of opinions if you share it. And that's normal. We are all allowed our different opinions. We're all allowed our different life experiences that we've had. And just keep in mind, if you are sharing it, that people have had a very unique upbringing. They might be completely different to yours. So they're seeing this as a completely different situation. Or frame of reference, you might have heard it called. So everyone has their own frame of reference. Another coffee, maybe. Everyone has their own frame of reference, and they bring that to every situation, every conversation, every interaction. So I just say be mindful of who you share it with in the beginning. Obviously, someone that you trust, someone that is generally encouraging, is always great as well. And be mindful if someone's sharing their goals with you. The same goes, right? You're coming from your own frame of reference and life experiences as well. And, realizing and remembering that this person has their own unique journey. So just say that. Be mindful of who you share it with. You can share it with as many people as you like or no one at all. Sorry, a bit parched. Just need a drink of water. Another thing that really often comes up is SMART goals. We've all heard of SMART goals. I reckon we probably all learn about it I don't know if we all learned about it in high school, but definitely throughout my university and throughout my work and career, SMART goals has been like the gold standard. And there's a reason for that. They work for sure. But if you are someone who feels like you've tried it or that it bores you to tears thinking about setting goals that are SMART goals, hear me out because I've got a different sort of formula for making goals that you might gravitate more towards and you might feel like works with you better and feels better in setting those goals. I like to use both because I think both are very valuable, both ways of setting goals. SMART goals are very specific. So if you're not sure what SMART is, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, or relevant, depending on how you like it, and timely. So yes, they're very good at chunking down big goals and making very specific so you know what is that goal, how are you going to know when you achieve it. It's got a bit of a time frame. It's a stretch, but you're pretty sure you can get there. That kind of goal is great for SMART goals. And I find that when you have a big goal, chunking that down into like 3 smaller goals, SMART goals are great for that. So just a little tip. If you hate SMART goals, you might think that might work better. You could try that. But if you, detest it and you're like, oh, so boring, it's not sexy at all. I have got another little formula that you might feel works better for you. On the other hand, you might feel like it's a bit too fluffy for goal setting. And either way is fine. Like it all works. Like I said, literally just writing it down will give 42% more likely to achieve it. So that's cool. So the second formula I came up with a few years ago. Actually, I think it was 2025. Almost 5 years ago. Isn't that nuts? I think it's nuts. Anyway, instead of SMART goals, we call them ACE goals. ACE. A stands for acknowledge or acknowledgement. So what are we acknowledging? What we're acknowledging is it's kind of reflection, right? So what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past for us when we've set goals or if we've set goals, right? We're reflecting on the past, but we're also like celebrating what were those things that really worked and what were those things that we were really excited to get after and to achieve. So this being the first step of setting new big goals. C stands for create. What do you want to create? So what do you want to create? Now, like I said, this is a little bit fluffier. It's not so specific like SMART goals, but you might feel this is good if you're not used to setting goals or you've been afraid to set goals like I was. I found this really, really helpful. So A for acknowledge and reflect. C for create. What do you want to create? We're talking big picture, like goals. What do you want to create? Is it something specific? Is it an event? Is it a feeling in your life? What sort of lifestyle do you want to create? Like, what do you want to feel each day? Is there something, maybe it is actually creating something. Maybe it's art or writing or whatever it is. That we're talking big picture instead of very specific. The reason we're talking big picture to start with is because sometimes it can feel a little bit less overwhelming, like compared to SMART goals. It also, if you found in the past yourself like yeah, I've got this goal, but how am I going to achieve it? I don't know what to do. Like, how? Like, how is this going to happen? I don't understand how I'm going to be able to get to that place. I don't understand how I'm going to be able to get to the gym 5 days. Whatever it is, if you get stuck in the how, this is a really good process because you're like saying, what do I want to create? And looking at the really big picture. What do I want to feel? That kind of thing. And what this does is doing this process will lead you to the how in a really natural kind of way, but it will lead you to the steps of how. Promise. Give it a try. Now, E in the ACE goal stands for evolve. So how will you know when you've achieved it? How will you be, quote unquote, different? Evolved. How will you know when you've achieved this goal? And you could describe it as in like what your day, like what a wonderful day looks like to you, right? What your exercise routine looks like. I'm just pulling some stuff out of the air. What your writing habit looks like, or your journaling habit. What does your meditation practice look like on a week-to-week basis? How will you know when you've achieved it? Yeah, so you can see with the C in what do you want to create, it will lead to the how. And then E for evolve is how will you know when you get there? And describing that. So this ACE process, it looks at more, I guess, like longhand descriptions of, cool, this has worked in the past, this didn't work. I'm acknowledging that, I'm celebrating it all. Create. What do you want to create? How do you want to feel? It'll lead you to the how, the steps. E, evolve. How will you know once you get there? And that longhand of describing that might be more your thing. And you know what? It's all good. And you're still writing it down. I think starting with ACE goals is great. And then once you have really nailed in on like, what do you want? What do you want to feel? What do you want to create? How will you know when you get there? You can make your SMART goals from that. I think that's super, super powerful. So let me know over on Instagram if you found this episode helpful. I would love to hear a big goal that you're working on at the moment. And I say big girl panties. I say big goals and big girl panties because let's leave behind not setting goals. Let's leave behind being afraid to fail. Let's leave behind the pressure and the expectations we may feel from others about acting a certain way or going after certain things when what we want is something completely different. Let's leave behind moving from one thing to the other without celebrating. Let's really celebrate every one of those small wins on the way to those big goals. And even when sometimes it feels like you're so far from achieving it, but you do one thing that's different to your regular routine, or you try a new track, or you try a new, whatever it is, recipe, let's celebrate. And you don't have to like throw a party. You can if you want. But like writing it down, or like I have a poster every year now that's like, this one's 2020 highlights, but you could do 2025. Oh my gosh, stuck about 5 years ago here. 2025 highlights or 2025 wins. And just write out on there every time something comes up. And it is so powerful having that like right next to somewhere where you see it every day, or you could have it in your journal, at the front of your journal. So when you open it up every day, if that's what you like to do, you could have it on your phone app notes as well. Really powerful, but celebrate those wins. I hope you have found this really helpful, and I really look forward to more conversations with you this year. I'll see you on the next one. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead, hit that follow button wherever you listen to your podcast. And I would super, super duper appreciate it if you leave a 5-star rating on Spotify.
What this does is it helps others like yourself to discover the podcast more easily and enjoy the episodes. I appreciate it so much. Have a wonderful day. You absolutely deserve it. We'll see you next time.